He's Scott Raab. He wrote the book, The Whore of Akron, on LeBron James. Man, it's a long, long 4 years ago. Let me start with Jeter, though. Have you ever profiled Jeter in Esquire magazine?
No, he's been generally unavailable for such things during his whole career.
Why?
I think he's a smart player. I think he's a smart guy. I mean, the tabloids have had their way to the extent they've been able to, but Derek Jeter, whatever you might think he's hiding or not hiding, has managed to get through an entire career in New York City without a blemish, basically.
But what would you want to get out of him? And what could you get out of him if you sat down for, let's say, an hour interview with Jeter?
I don't know that you could get that much. I think like many a great athlete, I think you know this better than I do, not introspective, not someone who dwells over much on what made me who I am today. What are my secrets? What shall I reveal? I think he's a straight-ahead guy. I think his work ethic speaks for itself. And as a lifelong Yankee hater, I could not have more respect for a player than I have for Jeter.
But we almost give him too much credit for just being a good guy, be responsible and respectable. Is that fair that the media has a crush on him because of that?
I think it is. I think part of that is the work ethic. Part of that is the nature of being a leader. I don't know if during the span of his career that there has been anyone else in sports who better represents. And again, you know, I rarely say the Yankees without an obscene adjective between the and Yankees. But captain of the Yankees, 5 world. I'm not a count the rings guy, but at some point, and this is the point, when Jeter's making his last, his last dance, really, I give the guy enormous credit.
And I think you did the profile on Alex Rodriguez after he came on my show and said that he did all these things better than Derek Jeter. Yeah. 2001, I believe.
That's after he signed with the Rangers.
Yeah, so he called me, and we started an interview. And he started telling me about Derek Jeter's contract and how they're paying him $18 million. And, I do everything better than him. And then he says, are we rolling on this interview? And I said, yes, we are. And I didn't take it out because I said when he called in, I said, hey, we're taping this. We're ready to go.
You're on the record.
And, yeah, so then all of a sudden, he didn't talk to me for 4 years.
I believe you.
And then was ready to challenge me to a fight in the locker room with the Rangers. Who would you take, me against A-Rod?
How many rounds?
I was not on PEDs.
How many rounds?
1.
A-Rod.
A-Rod, yeah. What, do you think I could have worn him down after 15?
Possibly. Possibly a decision if it goes to the cards.
With my wit, I could have, worn him down.
I remember he was quick as a younger man.
What stands out from that profile on A-Rod?
Sitting with him and Scott Boras and having Boras egging him. They had just signed that $250 million deal.
Yeah.
And Boras was really the one who kind of drew it out of A-Rod about how no one's worried about Jeter. Jeter doesn't carry the same kind of burden that A-Rod does because no other pitching staff is concerned about getting Jeter out. To the extent that either Boras or A-Rod believed it at the time, I got the call from A-Rod when it came out. You're killing me, man. And I sent Esquire faxed a letter to Jeter just trying to repair. Alex was so upset that the friendship was on the rocks. But what I remember is a young guy.
But he said the same thing to you that he did to me, and he got mad at me.
Oh, he was face-to-face with you. I work alone on the 3rd floor of the house.
What about narcissism in the success of athlete? How important is narcissism to be a great athlete?
These days, I can't even tell. I mean, partly because of the self-branding that goes on. I mean, the landscape has changed utterly, even in the past generation, and I go back longer than that. The narcissism at some point, it's a pejorative term. It's a horrible thing. You're a narcissist. But these are guys who have a small window to make their money. The career could end at any day. And the amount of work they do on grooming, literally and metaphorically, in order to represent T-Mobile, whoever, the list is incredible. These guys are incredible narcissists, but maybe in the same sense that Tom Cruise and Scarlett are.
What would you do with Johnny Manziel?
I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen, how that's going to unfold. I mean, what's to worry about? Not every binge drinking 21-year-old turns into an alcoholic. And it's the Browns. What could possibly go wrong?
Cleveland's now the epicenter here.
It's bizarre. I've spent the last month, I'm profiling Mike Pettin, the new Browns head coach for the September issue of Esquire. And I have pondered this deeply and been swept away by the unfolding of events. Johnny Football now is the least of it.
But if Manziel was in the 60s or the 50s, isn't it amazing how the coverage would be and what we would overlook in the media?
Well, I remember the end of Bobby Lane's career, Sonny Jurgensen's. These guys were two-fisted guys. Yeah.
Imagine if your starting quarterback is at the bar hammered.
Well, and Instagramming.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. I mean, it's unbelievable.
All right, when we come back, why he wrote The Whore of Akron. And is it really about him or is it about LeBron James? Scott Raab from Esquire. And what's the title of the next book about LeBron? Because Scott's got a new boyfriend. He's LeBron James. We'll continue with Scott Raab. He's Scott Raab from Esquire magazine. Full disclosure, he did do a profile on me, so he's not afraid to profile a loser. And he wrote the book, The Whore of Akron. Cleveland resident Scott Raab joining us here in studio. If I would have told you 2 months ago, LeBron's coming back to Cleveland, your reaction would have been?
Disbelief. 2 weeks ago. Disbelief.
Yeah. Now that he's back, do you like him?
I love him.
You love him?
I love him.
You love.
Yeah.
4 years ago, how was that? Your affection scale?
Oh, that was a bitter.
But why did you hate? Why Whore of Akron?
Well, I thought it was a catchy title.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I'm sure LeBron loved it. Did you ever hear from LeBron's camp on that?
I dropped off a copy at his mansion in Bath. I left it with the security guard, and one at the LRMR offices in Cleveland. I inscribed them both. Thanks for making this book possible.
Is it in the public library system in Cleveland?
In fact, I believe this. I choose to believe that at some point LeBron and Lee Jenkins got together, used my book to craft that SportsIllustrated.com letter. Every note, I'm kidding, but every note about home, about loyalty, about what really resonates in the history of a person, even a great athlete.
What you hammered him on 4 years ago.
Yeah, that. I'm a lifelong diehard Cleveland fan.
But why?
Well, go ahead.
LeBron gave you great years.
7 exciting years.
He was allowed to. He was afforded the luxury to be able to go. We, the media, forced him out of Cleveland. We made him chase rings, Scott. And greatness is about rings, and these guys are reminded every single day. He was not getting anybody to go to Cleveland. Chris Bosh wasn't going to Cleveland. No. Nobody wanted to go there. I think he looked around and said, I'm going to be I'm going to be Karl Malone and not have anything to show for.
In retrospect, I think you're absolutely right. I'm not chastened. I'm in some ways very joyful and certainly open to charges of hypocrisy, but we're talking about the kind of fanaticism that led to the word fan. I mean, I root for the laundry. I root for the team. Yeah. I loved LeBron. He wore a Yankees cap to Jacobs Field at the opener of a playoff series in 2007 between the Yankees and the Tribe. I turned on him. I boycotted the Cavs. My son threw away his LeBron jersey. It is a passionate, it is a torrid love affair. And now we're walking into the future together.
Hand in hand.
Well,
reunited, and it feels so good. If I said PR, if I said brand, or I said basketball, in what order would you say the reason why LeBron came back?
I think the one that you didn't name really is, and I may be projecting and likely am, I think it is the love of home. And I'm not saying that other people from other places don't love their hometowns.
So you
just
think
as much.
Family supersedes all of the other?
I do. I think raising your kids. I mean, I'll be moving back to Cleveland. I've lived in North Jersey many years now. I make my living in the city. I write for Esquire. My wife and I talk about it all the time. I mean, it won't be a big deal. There aren't the hopes and dreams of more than 2 people riding on my decision. But I think it was home. I think it was coming home.
So Scott Raab is taking his talents back to Cleveland.
Such as
Will
they
there
are.
be a press conference? Will Jim Gray show up? Will you bite your nails?
I still bite my nails, but I don't think Jim.
You don't think Jim Gray's going to show up there? Okay, so will you write another book
I'm open to.
on LeBron James?
Well, I think he'd be part of that book. I do have a working title, but it's Chief Wahoo Must Die.
So that's about the Indians.
I have this tattooed. I got it with Dennis Rodman, by the way, in 1994, the Chief Wahoo tattoo.
Wait, let me see.
Yeah.
You did a profile on Rodman, and then he got a tattoo. You got a tattoo?
Well, we were bonding as subject and writer. We got drunk and went to. He was having huge work done on his back. This is 20 years ago, and I thought it would. I had old tattoos, and I thought it would be a good way to get closer to my subject. I offered to get a genital piercing if he would. Fairly confident that Dennis wouldn't want to do that.
What if he said yes?
Then I would have a very small hook.
Speaking of hooks, Sig Hansen from Deadliest Catch will join us coming up next hour. Yeah.
Nice segue.
Thank you.
Man.
Okay, so you're going to write a book. The Indians mascot,
Yes,
I find more offensive.
by far.
The Redskin name, I know is offensive, but if I look at that Cleveland Indians logo, that's a parody. That's a caricature.
Oh, it's ghastly. Yeah.
Why won't they change? Why isn't there the outcry for that?
Well, I think the organization, which is run by smart guys, Mark Shapiro, Chris Antonetti, I think they understand they're on the wrong side of history. I think there is a tightrope they're at least attempting to walk about tradition. They polled the fans last year. It was utterly biased, series of questions. Look, anyone who loves the Cleveland Indians and whose loyalty and passion depends on this offensive, racist caricature that I've had tattooed on my arm.
I know,
for
but
20
do you
years.
feel bad that you now have it on there?
I not only feel bad, I'm going to get it X'd out. I'm not in a hurry to do that.
So you're like Melanie Griffith taking off Antonio Banderas' name?
I've just been scarred by being a Clevelander, at least in spirit my whole life. It's been a long, rocky love affair with those teams.
Cleveland coming back to Cleveland ranks where in the history of Cleveland sports?
LeBron's return. I was at the Browns game in 1964 when they beat the Colts for the last step. Yeah,
you brought in the ticket stub here.
I brought in my $8.
Yeah, $8.
Yeah.
Lower stand, by the way.
Yes, my Uncle Manny's, may he rest in peace, his season tickets. This is honestly the biggest. There have been no championships since then for any of the teams. LeBron's return is, I think, the best feel-good story since December 27th, 1964.
We'll leave with this, though. The economy, the impact on the economy in Cleveland with LeBron James coming home.
I've seen it estimated at $500 million potentially.
$500 million
increase.
Increasing.
That his presence alone in terms of playoff dates, increased business downtown for the Cavaliers' home dates. I mean, an economist is yanking that out of somewhere, but what I've read so far is $500 million difference.
Do you think Johnny Manziel? When do you think Johnny Manziel knew LeBron was coming back?
Johnny's represented by LRMR.
Yeah.
I don't know that he knew ahead of anyone else, but I think it's a very good thing for Johnny Manziel. I don't know when he knew, but I'm glad that LeBron, referring to himself as an old head in that letter, I'm glad he's there to give the kid a little bit of advice.
It's great to see you again, and we look forward to the next LeBron James book there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The Whore of Akron. Man, when I saw that title, I went, oh, my God. Scott, how could you do that?
Yeah.
But see, that book was more about you than LeBron.
I think it was. It was a search for my soul. Why would a fan get that obsessed with a young athlete?
Yeah. Did you write Brian Sipe, the whore of Cleveland, or did you get mad at him or Ernest Biner or anybody? No.
LeBron was our Moses. I'm telling you, and you know this. It's a biblical story. You can say prodigal son. I don't think that quite captures it, but he was our Moses. The promised land was visible at least. It wasn't LeBron's fault. He was 7 years a Cav and they didn't get it done. Now he's good. Even if they never get it done, I think they'll build a statue anyway.
I try to tell people who aren't from Ohio or certainly from Cleveland to understand what it's like to be a Cleveland fan.
Yeah.
If I gave you one sentence to let people know what it's like, how would you sum that up?
I'd say that the sports teams are only the most visible part of a 50-year downward spiral for that city, and that now that it, at least potentially, will turn itself around. People will walk a little taller, and that's a big deal in Cleveland.
When's the last time you cried over Cleveland sports?
When LeBron's decision was announced.
You cried?
Yeah, I got a 15-year-old son. I'm hoping to see a Cleveland team win a title with him before I die. I mean, I'm feeling good, but I'm also 61 years old, and those teams have been awful bad for a long time. So, yeah, I mean, we hugged it out.
You and your son?
Yeah, he wasn't crying. He was shooting hoops at the schoolyard, literally. But when he got home, we hugged it out, and, yeah, I shed a tear.
Good to see you again. He's
Thanks.
Scott Raab, Esquire Magazine, who wrote the Whore of Akron, and we'll wait to see what he comes up with here in the next couple of years with LeBron James.